Hello, ITE friends. I'm so excited to be with you today, and I'm really excited about this first ever Southern District virtual speed mentoring event. Discussions about mentoring have been part of our leadership training in the district for the last decade, but we have never hosted anything quite like this before. Now, this year has been a real challenge for all of us. We've had to rely on virtual platforms to relate to one another. Many people have experienced feelings of loss and isolation. Now, even if you have felt connected or maintained relationships over the last year, that has required a different way to relate to other people through virtual platforms, and we've all experienced the deficits that those bring in the way we relate to one another. The separation of the 2020 pandemic has reminded us how important relationships are and how necessary it is for us to nurture those relationships. Through today's virtual mentoring event, we want you to participate and make some new connections and maybe strengthen some old ones. Everyone participating in the event today has an interest in relationship building. So you are all taking time out of a busy day in order to set aside some focus on the role of mentoring in your life and career. If a future mentoring relationship sprouts from the seeds that we sow today, that would really be wonderful. But if not, at least you will have spent some time thinking about the role of mentoring in your career development and ways that you can nurture that moving forward. Are you familiar with this children's book? Are You My Mother by P.D. Eastman is a classic. In the book, a baby bird wakes up in the nest and finds that his mother is not there. And so he sets off on a quest to find his mother. Now, the baby bird doesn't know what the mother looks like. And so he begins asking every creature he runs into, "Are you my mother?" Even asking at the end of the book, a steam shovel, "Are you my mother?" Now, this book was used as a reference in Sheryl Sandberg's best-selling book, Lean In, as an example of the quest for a mentor. On many occasions, Ms. Sandberg says she has been asked by a complete stranger, "Will you be my mentor?" Sandberg states, when someone finds the right mentor, it is obvious. If you have to ask the question, "Are you my mentor?" the answer is probably no. Now, author and leadership consultant Simon Sinek puts it another way. He says a mentor relationship is more like a friendship. It evolves over time, and the focus is on the relationship. Sinek also says a truly great mentor relationship is reciprocal, not mentor-mentee, but more like mentor-mentor, where both participants learn from each other. Sociologists tell us that humans have a deep desire to engage in reciprocal behavior. So it makes sense that the type of relationship Sinek describes would be appealing to us. I recently did some internet research for a business development training class I was conducting at the office, and in that I found an insightful definition of relationship by consultant Scott Pollock. Pollock says, a relationship is a stew made from exchanged value, shared respect, and proactive helpfulness. Now, Pollock wasn't talking about mentoring relationships per se, but the core ingredients of success still apply and speak to this idea of reciprocity. exchanged value, shared respect, and proactive helpfulness. That's a pretty good basic recipe for a successful mentoring relationship. Now, I think that sometimes in the moment, it's hard for us to identify that we're in a mentoring relationship. Hindsight is often the best way to identify the mentors in our lives or the things that we have learned from them. Through that rearview mirror, we can see the people who helped us and the lessons that we learned. As I think back on my own career, mentors have taught me lots of valuable things. Things like how to persevere without burning out, how to handle conflict in a productive and proactive manner, and how to advocate for myself. I thought you might enjoy hearing from some other Southern District members as they shared their thoughts about mentoring in their lives, what they learned through those significant relationships. So let's take a look at a few of those. Young member Luana Broshears from Alabama shared this. Soft skills are definitely the biggest help I get from my mentors. A mentor once explained to me that knowing how to deal differently with different people is key for a successful team. Not everyone has the same technical skills and not everyone has the same personality. So it's important to identify the strengths and weaknesses of each person and work with them accordingly. It was eye-opening for me to observe how each person has a unique way to feel motivated, rewarded, and be willing to improve based upon how you approach them. Radha Swayampakala from North Carolina reflected back on a lesson learned about relationships in the early days of his career. You build relationships the day you graduate and start your work, my first supervisor, Jan Anderson, said. When you become a supervisor or business development leader, that's not when you start building relationships. I didn't understand this when she said it, but more than 19 years later, her words ring true. Many of those people I used to go to school with or connect with at young professionals meetings are now in charge of big projects. Those connections prove increasingly important now. That's the biggest advice I could give fellow associates just starting out. Build relationships and maintain them. One day, they'll prove useful. Kentucky Section Director Lindsay Walker added to the early career lessons theme with this. When I first started my career in transportation, I was not nearly as prepared coming out of college as I thought I would be. The coursework set a strong foundation for thinking, but fundamentally, all the software and tasks were learned on the job. My first supervisor would encourage me to look at the inputs to a software program and go back to the definitions to fully understand what the program was looking for as an input. It was tedious, and I spent a lot of time in the highway capacity manual, but I learned a lot this way and was able to feel more confident in the results. Through that mentoring relationship, I learned the value of research and understanding thoroughly my analysis efforts related to projects. Finally, Jonathan Kaiser from Mississippi provided a mentor's perspective. He has worked with the 3 ITE student chapters in Mississippi over the past 12 years. And Jonathan schedules presentations each semester and typically makes time to meet with the student officers. He says, it has been a great experience to get to know these students and to answer questions and advise them as they map out their future. Their questions are always intriguing as they want to know what professional life is really like, what a real job is like. Sometimes I will provide a mock interview for graduating seniors. I have a list of questions that I provide them for an interview. The list includes the questions that I would want to know the answers to in an interview, or what I would want the interview to know about the company. Thanks to those Southern District members for helping me with this. Their insights to their previous relationships have been so helpful. As we launch this first ever speed mentoring event, I want to leave you with 5 tips that will help you form better mentoring relationships. The first tip, seek variety. In a knowledge-based workforce, old school, clear-cut corporate ladders are rare. Information for career advancement must be gleaned from different sources. So you need to build a network of mentors with a variety of skill sets instead of pinning all your expectations on one person. Tip number 2, reverse roles. If you're a seasoned professional, try reverse mentoring to see what you can learn from a young professional. Perhaps you want to expand your knowledge in cultural diversity or technology. Young people have lots to offer. Just make sure that when you meet with your young mentor, you don't revert into giving them advice. Tip number 3, look inward and be intentional. Mentoring relationships are seldom long-term. Most happen for a season of life and then naturally dissolve when needs change. Think about what your present needs are. You may need to monitor your own performance for a little while and seek feedback from peers to identify what your growing areas are. After you have identified your needs, be intentional about seeking out individuals with strengths in those areas. Seek settings where you can meet people who have the strengths and skills that you are seeking. Tip number 4, practice great relationship skills. Listen attentively and actively. Be prepared to communicate honestly about your needs and your goals. And be respectful of personal and temporal boundaries when you're starting a new relationship. When someone helps you, be sure to say thank you. Tip number 5, remember, output is determined by input. A strong mentor relationship is built when both parties work at it. For long-term relationships, that effort will be centered in time spent together. For short-term or speed mentoring, great effort lies in targeted preparation. Your window of opportunity will be narrow, so you need to be prepared and focused to seize the nuggets of wisdom that come your way. Your preparation begins with knowing what you need and translating that into a meaningful question. And will you be my mentor is not a meaningful question. Regardless of whether your mentor relationship is long-term or short-lived, always follow through with the advice given, even if that is doing more research to determine if the advice fits you. Your mentor will be glad to hear what you have done with what you have learned. So I hope you're ready now for some lively conversation. It will be helpful if you have a pen and a pad to make notes on. As you hear interesting ideas, jot those down. If you make a connection with someone today, make a commitment to follow up and continue the conversation. This is a good day to start a new relationship. So, let's get started with some speed mentoring. Thanks. It's been great to be with you.